Welcome to this episode of the Gunman. In this video I'll be taking guys right through prep and paintwork on this Mercedes-Benz W113. It's a 280 SL 1968 Pagoda hardtop. Beautiful old car. The paint code for this is 462H and the colour name is Tunis Beige if you guys are looking for this colour. However, to find this colour myself, for those of you who are not familiar with the Standox mixing system, it has a tool called the Spectrophotometer, Genius. What it does, it's got 3 cameras on it. The new one's actually got 5 cameras on it. And you place the machine onto the paintwork, it takes a few photos, and you then plug it up to the computer and it scans the database for the closest match. And on this car, from memory, it was actually a Hyundai colour that it ended up finding. It decided it was better than the actual Mercedes colour, so I mixed that up and then colour matched it from there. So as you can see there, the panel beater who did it, did this job, he finished it off quite fine with some 400 grit. My boss said, look, just keep this job small. He didn't want to spend too much time and materials on it. He said just whack a bit of 1K primer over that because he finished it off nice and fine. We'll give that a bit of a bake out with the just with the heat gun actually. Just gave that about 10 minutes. Went off, did my colour while that primer was drying, and by the time I'd mixed and matched that colour, the that primer was right to start sanding. So starting off, we're giving it an extremely nice clean down the entire panel. So that was actually a wax and grease removing solvent I had in that squirter bottle. And prior to that, I actually wiped it down just with a damp cloth, just with water on it, just to remove any water-based contaminants first. And then we're getting the solvent-based contaminants after it with that prep sol. And next up here, I'm just using 1000 grit, being extremely careful not to try and cut through because this car's been, you can tell just by looking at it, and look, it's a 1968 car, obviously it's going to have been done a few times, so back in the day, they used to use a lot of acrylic paints and stuff like that, and they used to just do real big sort of spot repairs, and they'd blend the colour and blend the clears and all that. So yeah, basically you just got to be careful that you're not cutting through too many of those layers of their spot repairs, or else you can end up trying to blend over it and you've actually cut through their colour, which I actually ended up doing. So if you hang around to the very end, I've actually showed you, I painted this job and then it turned out that I didn't see this tiny little cut through. We got it out into the sun. We decided we may as well just take it back in and do another little spot repair on it, so hang around and check that out. I've also included a couple of clips of the car itself. It's a beautiful car, I tell you what. It's yeah, I've actually, if you want to check a bit more out about this car, I'll put a link in the comments or the description of the video down below. So check that out and you can read up about it. There's a Wikipedia link, it tells you all about this model of car. It's a really beautiful looking car, drives really nicely. For its day it was yeah, one of the most high-tech sports car roadsters. Obviously, as we all know, Mercedes-Benz, they build some really nice cars, and I can tell you now, just by driving the thing around the workshop, you can tell this is a really nice car. It handles nice, it's got a lot of power in it. It's an inline 6 in it, so it's straight 6, fuel injected, 2.8 litre, and yeah, it's really stylish. It's when I first looked at it, I don't know if I liked it, but after a week or so I was seeing it, it really grew on me, and I could happily drive one of these, absolutely. Quite a rare car too. Anyway, back on with the job. So we've got it into the booth after scotching all those edges down. I decided to use the 800 grit softback sanding sponges. I then blew the entire job off. Now taking it into the booth, masking it all up. Did all the edge masking around the backs of the doors. Put a bit of back masking there, and I'm then just razor blading straight down and straight over with the tape. Back in the day, a lot of guys used to just use the paper and then tuck the plastic underneath the paper, but these days with the plastic that we've got, it actually has one side of it is it's treated with a coating, and the paint will actually stick to that plastic. Back in the day, it never used to stick to that plastic. So you get sort of halfway through and you get your base coat on, you then start clearing, and that base coat would actually start flaking off into your paint job. So you never even used to be able to do this method. But yeah, plastic these days has come right down in price too. I think we pay about 26 Australian dollars for a box. So and this is good quality, tough plastic. So back in the day, I remember it used to be about $60, and the roll was half the size. Now they're a lot wider, so we can actually put four-wheel drive in the spray booth, and this plastic is wide enough to actually cover a big four-wheel drive. If it's a really big one, it's got roof racks on it, you may need to just put 1 or 2 pieces of paper down the side just to bridge the gap for the bottom of the doors or something like that. But yeah, continuing on with the masking, just when you're masking, any little holes is just an area that when you're using 2-pack paint, you just got to be really careful that you do mask it all up properly. And I've found that the longer pieces of masking is better. So you probably see when I was masking, I was dragging big long pieces out, so a metre plus type thing, with because the more pieces that you put on, the more gaps there are, more possibility of having somewhere for it the paint to creep up under. Next up, I'm wiping it down with the degreasing cloths and the wax and grease remover. So you notice that I wiped down the blend areas first. So the areas that I'm only going to be putting clear coat, I wiped over first. I then wiped over that area that the primer is, because that can actually, the dust from that primed area can actually drag over to your blend area and end up making a bit of a milky haze over the blend, and if you clear over that, you'll sometimes see through that. So once it's all wiped down with the wax and grease remover, and then taking the gloves back off, using some 3/4 inch tape, I'm going to flick that leading edge over. This is what we call false edge or soft edge masking, and being that leading edge has been flipped over, it's going to allow a bit of the clear coat and the base coat to come up under there without leaving a big hard thick edge, and later on when it's out the back, we'll be able to run the buff over it, and that will remove any visible line there is across that body line there. And this is extremely handy little method in the trade. I use it just about every day. I use it for masking door jambs. I use it for any stuff like this. I find it better than even the foam tapes and the stuff that you can buy. There's all these different things on the market they make out as if they're going to be the best thing, but this is actually better. There is actually a little hand maskers. I've seen them once, and it actually does that flick over for yourself. Some people can't do it. They find it actually tricky to do that soft edge. I've actually got another video if you'd like to check that out. It goes a bit more into detail how to do that false edge there. So check through my vids, you should be able to find that. Anyway, next up there was, yeah, as you can see, there's just chipped through the clear coat and the base coat there. Just around that door handle, so I decided just if I touched that up before I cleared it, it's going to, the clear coat will then actually protect it. I prefer to do these kind of touch-ups sometimes before you clear it, and actually make it look a little bit better. Just obviously careful to contain it just to the area that is gone back down to the base coat. You don't want to make a total mess and have it coming out too far and stuff like that. So next up, I did let that dry for a couple of minutes. I'm not just tack ragging straight over that wet base coat. And yeah, just got my tack cloth with the spray gun in the other hand. You could alternatively use a high pressure air gun. And I'm using the blue tack cloth this time. And sometimes you guys see me use the yellow ones. Yellow, blue. Yellow is basically high tack. Blue is more of a base coat tack rag. However, this was probably just the cleanest one that was sitting in the booth at that time. That's probably why I just grabbed it. And for this job I'm using the DeVilbiss GTI Pro with the T2 air cap on it. I've been using the T2 air cap lately. I used to always use the H1 and that was great, served its purpose. I don't know why, I just decided to change over to this T2, so no particular reason. Basically it'll atomise finer, the T2, because the holes in it are finer, it consumes less air, it needs less air to spray, and yeah. No real reason I've been using it, I just decided to start going back to it. So in between coats here, you see I just left that in real time just so you guys could actually see how long it takes in between coats using solvent. 30 degrees Celsius, Not 100% sure what that is in Fahrenheit. I think it'll be around 70, 80 degrees for you Americans. I know there's a lot of Americans watching. Recently I've actually had a guy from Sweden tell me he'd like me to include bar as well as PSI, so I'll do my best to include both of those measurements for different people around the world who use different imperial or metric systems. So once I got those first couple of coats of base coat on, I'm then doing the blending clear in that gun. That's just a clear base coat, that's all it is. It's 599 in the Stanok solvent range, so it's just a base coat or a sort of stabilizer binder type thing, and it just aids the blend, so it helps that metallic lay into that wet bed. And I'm then doing this blend coat. You can see straight away the colour's already starting to look good again. Straight away, when it was just sanded down and I had those first couple of coats on, it looked like a totally different colour, but I wasn't stressed. I knew it was going to come good as soon as I put the blending coat down. So I'm just letting that base coat tack down, just giving it a couple of minutes, just watching it, and it turned out I wasn't 100% happy with it, so I just decided just to give it another light dust of the metallic over there. You can see I'm just blowing a bit of air over it to aid it drying, and yeah, I just decided it needed just a touch more. It looks pretty good, like you'd probably be able to clear over that and it'd be okay. It was just a slight bit of mottle in the blend. And the best advice I can give is with blends and stuff like that, like when I was early in my trade and just early into being a tradesman and stuff like that, blends are one of the tricky things, and I've ended up finding the best advice to succeeding with blending your colour is actually just making the colour correct before you blend it. So the colour matching stage, don't just have a look at that colour and say, oh, I shall be right, I'll be able to blend that. Spend that little bit extra time on matching the colour and you'll find blending breeze, absolute breeze. So as you see there, I'm using the Anest Iwata Bellaria W400 BA4/2 is the air cap, and it's a 1.3mm fluid needle and tip on it. I like to set the pressure right up there at 2 bar, which is 29 psi, and have the fluid set from about 3 to 4 turns out. I had it set at 3.5 turns out for this job. So wind the fluid right in, then come out 3.5 turns, and I usually just leave that fan wide open on this gun. There's no need to close it up. It's got a beautiful fan on it. For those of you who are not familiar with Bellaria, it actually means beautiful air. So I gave that a good 5 minutes in between coats, and then come back into the booth and put my second coat on. Same settings, but maybe just moving a touch slower as to get the final finish on a bit wetter. I don't like putting my first coat on too wet. First coat will help this, gives the second coat something to grip to, and you don't want to get runs in it. You can pull your base coat, you can pull the metallic down and stuff like that, and yeah, just so not too heavy with your first coat. Basically, one thing I'd like to touch on, I can set my gun up totally different. I could have this fluids wound right out if I wanted. I could have the pressure right down to even 18 psi or 1 bar or something like that, and I could still get good finishes with it by altering my actual technique itself. So yeah, that's just, these settings are a guideline. It's the way I like to paint, and I find it easier to get the good finish. So as you can see here, it's quite clean, the colour blended out really nice, and the orange peels great. So just up the front edge of that guard is actually where I had the issue, or the fender, the front edge of that fender. And once we have a good look at this car, this is before it was washed up, so this is just after it was painted, before it's been polished or anything. At this point the panel beater was putting it back together. A really beautiful car. It's got a very distinctive shape to it, bit of a concave roof on it, and it's beautiful. Just a really nice car to sit in. I focused in on the gear knob, or the gear transmission there. because it's actually backwards. Like most of the cars have park up the top and down the bottom is drive, but this is the opposite way around. So parks down the bottom and drives up the top. So yeah, it's something different. And if you hang around to the very end, there's actually another look at the car once it's all washed up, and give you a look at it running and stuff like that. So this is that area. Like you can't probably barely even see it in this in the light in this booth, but just there where my hand is now, it's got a slight cut through, and we decided we'd just fix it. So just did a bit of a quick scotch down, used a bit of 800 pad and then scotched over the edge. Just give it a quick mask up again, and then just splashing a small amount of colour just over that front area. It was just there that it was. Yeah, I probably should have seen it, but I didn't. It's one of those things, you can have all the experience in the world in this trade, you're still going to make mistakes. No one's immune to mistakes in this trade. So in this gun here, again, that's just my blending clear. I call it blending clear. It's that 599 I was talking about before. And I'm using different guns. So there you go. You get to see a couple of different guns in action on this job. And this air cap I'm using here is the TE10. A lot of the time, you guys, if you guys watch my videos, I use the TE20 on the DeVilbiss GTI Pro Lite, but I decided to use the TE10 on this job. I have actually had a couple of guys asking me, they want to see the way I set the TE10 up. So it's just not really much of a video here, so keep watching and there will be more videos on the TE10. This video is not really dedicated to the TE10, it just happened to be the week that I was using the TE10. And anyway, a quick run through those settings. You don't need as much air with the TE10. You're only going to need about 18 PSI, which is about 1 bar. And pretty similar for the rest of the settings. I like to have the fluid about 3.5 turns out, and have that fan wound wide open. So that's just my first coat of clear coat there. You don't want to put any of that blending clear over yet, but after your second coat of clear, we'll put the blending reducer, over the edge. So you can see it's the TE10 there. About 20 PSI, 18 to 22 PSI, where you want it to, probably the green zone I'd say. Has a smaller green zone, this gun. I've found the TE20 has a bigger area that it will operate well at, whereas because the holes and air cap of the TE10 are so small, it's more susceptible to fluctuations in the air pressure. So yeah, just a bit of that blending thinner. AK350 is the product code, and it's a DuPont product there. Great product, it's widely used in this industry. Even guys that don't use DuPont at all use that AK350. So I'm just peeling that tape off prior to baking it. It's going to help that edge melt in. There you go, there's the car. I do have more footage of the polishing stage of this. I decided this video just about got long enough as it is. That car looks good now. I'd be happy to own it. It's a beautiful car, as you can see now. It's washed up. I'll go and turn the car on for you and give another quick look around it. As I say, check out in the description of this video. There's heaps more information on all the different models of these cars got bought out as. There was soft tops, and they went from 63 to 71, something like that, I'm pretty sure. But check it out. There's a link to a Wikipedia site there. Really nice car. It's got a real nice note on it too. As soon as I jumped in it, put the foot down, I can tell, yeah, this is a goer. I'd love to take this for a spin. Actually used to have a 1969 diesel baby Merc, so it was a 4-door 220D. It was a really nice car, absolutely loved it. Unfortunately, the timing chain snapped on it and I never had the money to fix it, so always had a soft spot for these old Mercedes. All the chrome work, that's just a beautiful car to me. Built well, built to perfection, lots of nice thick steel in that car, and it's still going strong after all these years. 280 SL automatic. So hang around here at the end. I've got a couple of links to a couple of my other videos. Also there's a link to view my YouTube channel, which I've got loads of playlists and stuff like that. So check me out on Facebook too. Thanks again for watching, and this has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.